Hello, I'm Jane Blaney. I'm course director for the Masters in Bioinformatics and Computational Genomics at Queen's. So yeah, I've been the course director for the past couple of years. Been at Queen's University for the past 5. Belfast, in terms of, before we get on to the course, it's looking at why us, why Northern Ireland, why Belfast. It's actually quite a good place to live in terms of general living costs. Rent here is quite cheap. Food here is quite cheap. You know, it's. I'm not sure about Northern Ireland being the happiest place in the UK, but we do have a fair amount of crack at times. And we're one of the top in the top 200 universities. I mean, there's a nice vibe about Belfast. It is a friendly place. It's the sort of place that people who don't know you will say hello to you in the street, or when you're sitting on the train or in the bus, or you'll get people just starting up conversations with you. So people tend to smile and acknowledge you. It's not all about head down and walking on by. So you do get the feeling that you're part of something here. And apparently we're the safest region in the UK. Now I have to say, I mean, I've travelled around and I do feel safe when I'm out walking at night. I mean, of course, yeah, crime does happen, and you do have to, take care of your belongings, but it's relatively safe, so it would be somewhere when it's late in the evening, I'm quite happy to walk around and, feel okay. So, I mean, Belfast is a small city, it's a large town, and you get that feeling from it. People do look out for you here. So you do, your neighbours will be interested in you. People will ask how you are, so you do get the feeling you're part of a community here. And we're always curious in terms of what people are doing. So we do tend to look after each other. And Queen's itself is one of the oldest, one of the kind of the older colleges here, if you look at Ireland as a whole. So what you've got here is a picture of the Lanyon building. That's the main campus. We're mainly in the city hospital site. So sometimes we would have classes over in the main building, but I mean, all of Queen's is walkable from, it would be about 5 or 10 minutes to walk from this main building through to the city hospital site. So Belfast is very accessible via public transport, but also just being able to walk around. It's fine. You can find your way very, very quickly. So we're one of the oldest in the UK and also in Ireland. We've got just over 2,500 international students, so we've got quite a diverse population, which is great. And we're in what is the top 20 kind of research-intensive universities. And with this particular course, you're going to be taught by people who are all researchers as well as teachers. So we are all publishing, we are all bringing in grants. So we're all kind of investigating. We're always keeping up to date in terms of what's happening with each of our topics. We bring in a lot of research money, and there's also a lot of focus in terms of creating spin-outs about commercializing ideas. With respect to my sort of work, that would be when you have biomarker tests or assays for diagnosis of disease or prognosis, or whether a patient is going to respond to a particular treatment. So we're based within the School of Medicine, Dentistry and Biomed Sciences. So, but we also have links to the School of Biological Sciences, Pharmacy and Nursing and Midwifery. And you'll find that kind of comes across more with respect to the research projects that we do. So the sort of, with respect to the course, we cover is health sciences, but it can also be some basic biology as well. And that's where some of the supervision comes in with respect to pharmacy or biological sciences. A lot of partnerships. I would, NCI in Washington, I've got a student over there, but we also have partnerships, say, with local industry. Almac Diagnostics is a big player worldwide, but we also have connections in China, Malaysia, Dubai, and kind of further afield. In terms of our particular school, I mean, it comprises a number of different centres. We have Centre for Cancer Research. We also have a Centre for Experimental Medicine and a Centre for Public Health. We're particularly the course has been run by through the Patrick Johnson Centre for Cancer Research and Cell Biology. Patrick Johnson was a former Vice Chancellor of Queen's, and he also led up and set up the Centre for Cancer Research. So this is why we're named after him. We work a lot nationally and internationally in terms of looking at new biomarker tests, uncovering what the biology is between different groups of patients, and basically trying to advance patient care in the sense that you want to get, it's about stratified medicine, we want to get the right treatment to the right patient at the right time. So for us, in terms of what you'd be letting yourselves in for, within bioinformatics, computational genomics, in terms of how, when people ask me what I do, on a day-to-day basis, I use math, stats, and computing and apply it to biological and clinical problems. So bioinformatics is a very generic term. People talk a lot about big data. What basically big data is loads of patient information, and we've recorded loads of information about each of those patients. And we use that data and interrogate that data to look for patterns that you couldn't normally see by eye. And this is where we bring in math, stats, and computing. We tend to take samples from patients. It could be taking blood samples, it could be taking tumor samples, it could be taking normal samples, and we interrogate those samples to see if there's anything about those patients that we can group them into little subsets and say, okay, this patient group is particularly going to respond really well to drug A, this patient's going to respond really well to drug B. So it's all about making sure that once a patient's been diagnosed, we can tell very quickly about what their best treatment plan is. But there's a lot of biology and a lot of data analysis that goes on before we can do that. And over the past 10 years or so, we've seen a lot of information come to the fore. There's a lot of public information out there that's been published on different diseases. So we can look at a tumor sample on a number of different levels to look for different levels of biomarkers. So for us, we started off less than 10 years ago, and it was more focused on kind of, not hardcore bioinformatics, but it kind of reflected what was happening at the time in terms of being able to, I worked in protein structure prediction, and that we were interested in that, being able to kind of predict how well certain drugs would work when you're trying to dock onto a particular protein. We kind of looked at the course again midway through the decade and rebranded it more from a translational point of view, looking at patient stratification and health. And we started off back in 2011 with only 5 students, and this year we've had 29. So there's a lot of interest in the course, both locally from the UK and Ireland, but also more internationally as well. It's bioinformatics is one of those skills that's recognised by the research councils here as being under-resourced, but it's also recognised by the UK government as being one of those kind of important skills or recognised skills that would kind of push you up any kind of visa application ladder, so it's one of those kind of critical skills that we need. What we do is we are a conversion course, so we're taking people from scratch here. We're taking people from biology, biomed sciences, but also math, stats, computing, physics, chemistry, and you have to have, so a good science background or a maths background, and minimum 2-1. And we also take on intercalating students. And when we started out, we had mainly more maths people coming on board. Now we mainly have medical, kind of biology, biomedical people coming in wanting to convert. And some of these guys have stayed with me as PhDs, and it's amazing how much technical information can be absorbed over the years. And some of these people are really good statisticians now, computational people. Just it's amazing how much you can learn within the year. It's a full-time course. You're going from September through to September. We're trying to keep the numbers around 20 to 25 for this incoming year because we want to maintain a high staff to student ratio. We feel this is really important. It's not just about, here you get a lecture for 2 hours and you don't see us again. We keep in contact with students throughout the term, and a lot of our assessments are quite interactive as well. So as I said before, you're being taught by people who are research active. So it's not just people who know the theory of things. These are people who actually, do work in cancer stratification, or also, like myself, work across inflammatory disease or in epidemiology or public health. We also bring in clinicians and industrial people to our course. So that's pretty important for us, because the industrial pipeline might be slightly different from the research pipeline. In academia, we tend to have a wee bit more flexibility. Whereas when you have people coming in from industry, you really start to see about what the main focus is and the different methods that they use. So, in terms of why we're doing this particular course, it's actually, I've got 0.1%. I think it's actually less than 0.01% of biomarkers that have been published in journals have actually made it into the clinic. So we do a lot of talking, but we don't actually get it to the patient. And, people have looked at this and said, okay, what's going on here? But there's a lot of issues to do with data, the quality of the data itself, the fact that the wrong methods have been used to analyze the data, and just the lack of validation as well. So this is why we're kind of setting this course, to be able to kind of address that. You will have the sort of skills that will allow you to address, questions that come from your biological colleagues or your clinical colleagues. You'll be able to work across multiple types of data, but also relate that to what we know about the patients, as in what we would call clinical pathological data. So you'll be dealing with multiple technologies. So this is, we try to focus you within the respect to, it's not just about being a tech, it's about being a tech who can work and talk to clinicians, can talk to biologists, can communicate with them in a way they understand, but it can also take what they're given to you and you kind of figure it out going, okay, I know how to design this study. I know how to design what, to take on certain analytical techniques. So you'll be based within the School of Medicine, Dentistry and Biomed Sciences, primarily within the Centre for Cancer Research. So it could be, well, we say unique solutions to medical problems, but essentially it's about robust solutions. We could develop a solution that fits a Northern Irish patient cohort, but you want to be able to have one that also translates across to a Swedish cohort or a cohort from Australia or in the States. So this is about looking at data that's already there, results that have already been published, and being able to interrogate that data and go, okay, how does this relate to the patient? So this isn't something that's just been done in a vacuum. This is the work that you do during this course is always focused on how do I make things better for patients potentially, or you start to learn skills that allow you to kind of go to the next level in that. So, for us, it's a mixture of, the stats, the biology, the computer science. So for people who don't have a biology background, we do provide like a refresher course or a little kind of easy road in. For those who don't have stats or computing, again, we lead you by the hand. We just take your hand and just do it in baby steps with you. So this is something that, again, bear in mind, this is a conversion course. This is intensive, but it's rewarding. I come from a maths computing background, and people always ask me why I'm in this particular area, why I'm not in like the oil industry, or why I'm not in economics or finance. It's because I can actually see the impact of my work here. I want to use what I have in terms of maths computing for good. I still don't know everything about biology. I've been doing this for a long time, but I still have to ask questions and go, well, why are we doing this? Why are we looking at this particular question? So never stop asking questions, and I have no problem putting my hand up and saying, I don't know something. So you will actually be taught by people who are either biologists converted into bioinformaticians or mathematicians, computer scientists like me who've been converted into bioinformaticians. So you'll get different kind of flavors as you come through. So, your supervisors and the people who you'll be teaching, will vary according to the module. So yeah, some semesters, some lectures, you will get, you will kind of start to feel who is more a biology person or who's more a maths computing person. So sometimes if people ask me something biologically related in class, I'll go, nah, sorry, I have to check about that. So I'm still learning, and I will keep learning until I retire. So how we're split up over the year, you have 3 top modules in the first semester, so that starts in September. So these, you have a first 2-week module, which is introductory cell biology, and then you go straight into 3 simultaneous modules, gene expression, genomics and human disease, and then a statistical computing module. The statistical computing module looks at R and Python. Those are 2 common programming kind of skill sets that you'll need once you go out into the world, whether it's a PhD or into industry. You also have genomics and human disease, and that looks at it more from a public health point of view, where you're looking at large-scale data sets, probably more in rare diseases, and you have more clinical input. Analysis of gene expression will look at the different ways that you can start to develop biomarkers, and it tends to be within more an inflammatory disease setting. In semester 2 is the same structure. Instead, you have 4 modules, but 2 of those modules, systems medicine and health and biomedical informatics, are actually half modules. So it's the equivalent of doing 3 top modules. Biostatistical informatics is online, so that's my module, but it's supplemented by face-to-face sessions. And that takes you really through the key biostatistical techniques. Applied genomics looks more at the different omics types of data, and takes you through various scenarios in which you can kind of relate those to how patients survive after treatment. Systems medicine and network biology looks at an area in which we try to integrate data and bring it all together using network analysis. And health and biomedical informatics in the exposome. The exposome is a newer kind of area, and that looks at what we encounter every day, whether it's the tea we drink, whether it's the food we eat, whether it's the fact we live in a particular area of town, how that impacts on our health. And that will take you from things like Fitbits through to natural language processing of electronic health records. So systems medicine and health and biomedical informatics are new modules, so we tend to go through the course each year and go, okay, could we do this a bit better? What's out there at the moment? What do we want to upskill our students in? The 3rd semester starts kind of end of May, start of June, and that's your research project, and that takes you through to mid-September. This is, so each of these are set into 3 kind of same size bits. So the research project is the equivalent of 3 top modules. And this is where you work closely with a supervisor or a couple of supervisors on the project that you've been allocated and hopefully chosen. So research projects tend to be the same thing, written up in the form of a thesis. Sometimes you can do something very technical, sometimes you can do something more translational. And this it contributes 1/3 of your mark for the master's. What we're trying to get across for this is, people would ask me, oh, do you cover all of bioinformatics? No master's course is going to be able to do that. This is more to give you breadth and to allow you to continue to train. So you will know enough. You only really get depth when you hit your research projects. What we do tend to drum really kind of force home with students would be ethics. Even as a bioinformatician, you need to be aware of ethics, whether this is in terms of study design, robustness, or stringency. I've always, like when I've been working, I'm seen as being the kind of the bottleneck, where I say, look, a data set's not fit to be analysed. I have to throw out 2/3 of the patients here. And, some people can really kind of react to that, but you have to be stringent and robust and kind of true to yourself and also true to the patients. Because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I analysed an unclean data set. So, it's not, ethics isn't just about people who are dealing with patients on a day-to-day basis. There are ethical issues in terms of analysing or reanalysing patient data sets. And that's another thing that I would go on to, that there are loads of public data sets out there, and why would you need to waste student resources by creating another one? You can ask, the same data set can be used for a number of purposes. So it's about being clever with your data and about your resources when you finally go on to do a PhD or into industry. Also, there's, we want to have students who are able to kind of stand there and look at a data set and look at a clinical question and go, what method do I use to interrogate this? There is not a one-size-fits-all statistical or machine learning method out there. Every data set requires, every question or every hypothesis requires a particular way of thinking or interrogating or asking. So it's not just about, I always use this method. Well, good for you, but have you checked whether it's relative to the data set? You'll be focusing on using methods and data that allow you to create or develop biomarkers either at the diagnostic level, does the patient have the disease, predictive level, how will a patient respond to a treatment, or a prognostic level, how well is a patient going to survive after this. And as I said before, it's not just about creating text, this is about creating people who can talk, people who can communicate. We want you to be able to be the bridge between clinical people and other tech people. We want you to be able to interpret. We want you to be able to visualize and communicate your results. It's not just all about coding and doing maths. This is actually about being able to respond to your colleagues, whether they're clinicians or biologists. So you're actually going to be multifunctional when you come out at the end of this, and be able to kind of fit into a number of domains and fit into a number of areas. So yeah, the three top modules per semester, these are CATS points. So it's just been aware that each module requires about 200 hours per semester. Per module over the semester, you'd probably get 30 to 40 hours. So you expect to be in maybe about 12 hours per week into lectures and tutorials as well. So maybe 12 to 20, it depends on the modules. You'll have a mixture of individual group assessments. Say for mine, you would do a lot of data analysis. For other settings, for other modules, you may do presentations, group presentations. In some cases, you may be writing essays. You will have a final thesis to do. So there's a mix of analytical as well as evaluation and communication assessment. So this is, basically we've had feedback from industry saying, please, can you provide us with students who can participate in the team? And so this is why we've kind of upped what we would see more a combination of soft and technical skills. The research module, a little bit, you will do a little bit on it in December, January, but the main focus is from May to September. And that's why I'm saying it's an equivalent of 3 top modules, the 60 CAP points. And depending on the year, you'll have a mixture of academic and industrial projects as well. Our students do tend to go on to a number of areas, and it will vary according to each year, depending on what money's available in terms of funding for PhDs or where they go. So some go on to PhDs, others go into the industry, and so it's not just an academic level where we're just preparing you to stay in academia for the rest of your life. It's like we want you out there working and actually, making a difference to patients as well. So the first example I've given here is from Grania. Grania was one of my students at undergrad level. So although Grania initially went into the Northern Ireland Statistics and Research Agency, the reason why I've included Grania's quote is because she hasn't stayed in health. She's actually gone into marketing within a credit card company. Now this is in London that she's based now, so she actually has transferable skills. So I think she was just attracted by the idea. It was still data analysis. She was still using the same tools, but she shifted across. And I just thought that was something that was quite important to kind of stress, that you're just not stuck in terms of health. You actually have skills that other industries, other domains would like to look at. And the other quote there is from Alan. Alan was working over in Edinburgh, and he found then that, again, it's having that breadth. He was able to go into industry. What some industrial collaborators have said to us is we'd rather have students at the master's level rather than at the PhD level, because they're still they still want to do their own training with them. So they want us to get them up to a certain level before they take them on and train them for work within their industry, and just kind of have them more kind of prepared. So people have gone from all over. Some have gone PhD studentships all over the UK and Ireland and further afield. Others have gone to local industry. So there will be examples like the LMAC group or Randox, and some have gone into clinical, into the health service as well, but there are fewer jobs at the moment for that. I've noticed that students have actually moved around quite a bit once they start to be employed, and are, so there's a lot of kind of, they've been able to advance either within the place that they're in or actually move around when they've got better opportunities. So I've seen people move from health into more kind of financy, kind of more generic kind of statistical machine learning places. So, if we give students mobility, and some students actually come back after being in industry and want to do a PhD with us as well. So if you get your 3 top modules, you can leave with a postgrad certificate. If you get 6 of the top modules, all 6, you're able to exit with a postgrad diploma. Sometimes people get a PhD offer or a job offer and want to go. And if you finish your dissertation on top of the 6 top modules, that's what gives you your master's. We've been recognised over the past 3 years at an All-Ireland postgraduate award ceremony. So we've been either listed under science, health sciences, computer sciences. So we keep going back and we keep being shortlisted, but we've yet to win, but we're very, very determined to win this year. But it's nice being recognised for that in terms of the work that we do and where our students go. So in terms of what else is out there, so in terms of who you're taught by, you're surrounded by lecturers, research active lecturers, postdocs and PhD students. You also have the graduate school there who are able to provide you with a range of soft skills, so that we would encourage you to take on a lot of training outside of that if you can fit it in. So again, it's about transferable skills that whether it's writing your thesis or presenting. So these kind of workshops tend to fill up pretty quickly. So and it's also another place to work as well. It's a beautiful building, and it's just another source of support. And this is something that's on the main Queen site in the line beside the Lanyon. In terms of fees, you've got well, it varies whether you're a home or Great Britain student. And there are also scholarships there for international students. For this would be, you would get more general information from that from the Ask MHLS at qub.ac.uk. And also for domestic students, you have kind of development student loans now as well. But those are something that you can ask the faculty or school office about in a wee bit more detail. That is something that the lecturers themselves wouldn't really deal with. We tend to just deal with the content of the course and what's going to come up. But the outside stuff tends to be dealt with faculty and school level, so they will help you out with that. So what do you need? At least a 2-1. And places do tend to fill up quite quickly with this. So, mentioned before, biomed sciences, anything with a basic science, physics, molecular biology, genetics, but also coming from mathematics or computer science or physics. And we do take on, so we've had the odd intercalated student, medical student wanting to just get a master's to help boost their career. And then in terms of English language requirements, if you were schooled in a language that was not, and English wasn't your first language, you need an IELTS score of 6.5 in the last 2 years. So in terms of what do you do now? It's just either you can accept your offer, or some of you may be waiting on exams so that you can fulfill your conditional offer. For any of the more kind of admin-y stuff, look for Ask MHLS at qub.ac.uk. But anything more to do with the content of the course, just ask me. And this is where Kira, who is lurking in the room as well, will play a video now from one of our former students who is just finishing her PhD.
My background is in computer science. I wanted to do something different. So I had an interest in biology, but I had not done any biology previously. So I was looking around to see where I could find a course where I could bring in all the information, all the knowledge that I've learned from computer science into biology to see how I could make use of it. I wanted to see what way we could try and use computer science to try and help people to change lives, not just go directly into industry and start developing software. The cool thing about this course was that that's exactly the skill set that I got. It was open to anyone who was having a STEM degree, basically. They explained everything from the beginning, and there was like a really good support system. All the lecturers were fantastic. We start with different kind of cancer data sets, and we learn about the patients, and I got a good understanding of how I could translate all the technology side of things that I had learned then into the biology side of things, then to actually end up developing systems, which is what I currently do, to understand and to actually advance precision medicine. Because everything that we do here, we are trying to better the lifespans of patients. At the end of my master's course, so you get to do a project. So I built a prototype framework for an existing framework within Queen's, and that really sparked an interest, which was what actually led to my PhD at the minute, which I'm doing in Queen's. I actually have a spin-out company from that, so it's been really successful so far. It's been a very good experience. The exposure that I got in terms of working with the biologists and working in bioinformatics was really positive. The experience you get within Queen's is really valuable. Regardless of whether you want to stay in industry or whether you want to go into academia, you really do have the best of both worlds to select from.
Okay, so that was Deva. Deva is just coming towards the end for a PhD. She's currently working as a postdoc, and she, as she said in that, she's involved now with a spin-out company as well. So she's incredibly busy at the moment. So any questions that you want to ask, mainly about the course content, I'll be able to help you with today. Don't all rush at once. Right, thank you, Mohammed. Oh, do you want me to turn my camera on again? No, all right. Okay, Mohammed's asked, what does the typical timetable look like, and how much lab time would we be able to get in this course? It depends what you mean by lab time. These are dry labs. So you probably could be in anywhere from between 14 and 20 hours in lecture or in tutorial. So each, what would happen usually, we'd have a 2-hour lecture followed by a 2-hour tutorial, may not necessarily be on the same day. So as well as getting the theory of what you're trying to do, we also give you practical skills. So a lot of the time around that then is going to, you have to supplement with your own work. What we do is have a suite of about 25, 30 machines, good high spec desktops purchased within the last couple of years. So that allows students to come in and self-study within the bioinformatics room. And it allows you to kind of practice and just get confident with what you're doing. So there is directed learning, but then like most master's courses, the majority of the time is going to have to be self-directed learning. So we design our tutorials and practicals so that they complement the theory and prepare you for the assignments. Right, James, you were saying about would it be a benefit to get a fair amount of programming in before September? It's not needed, but anything that you can do in R, say, I will type in, there are 2 online bodies. There is edX and Coursera. I'm loath to mention another one, but there are various online free courses in R, and it's just to get you over that hurdle, just being able to kind of understand what's happening in the environment and what, you know, how do you read in a table, how do you make certain columns appear. So for me, it would help your confidence, because for me, when I'm dealing with these when I'm dealing with students, they can be quite, and I was the same, you know, when I did a conversion course going from maths to computing, and I was like, whoa, I should know how to do this, and I didn't. So it took me a while to get my confidence up, but it's you know, I think with practice comes confidence. You become much more confident, and then when you get to Christmas time, you look back on what you've learned, and it's amazing. So a lot of the time is about holding your hands as well, saying, look, it's okay. It's okay not to know how to do stuff immediately. Just take your time, and we'll hold you. So in terms of, right, okay, Mohammed's just come back to me in terms of research projects. What we do with the research projects is we gather them each year from a set of supervisors, and we get students to rank them. So you apply for research projects, and we try to maximize choice. So it could be that maybe the majority of people get their first choice and a couple of people get their second or third choice. So there is some matching goes on. So we try to maximize students' interests, but not, sometimes people are going, okay, I got the second choice, but with quite a larger cohort, it's more difficult to kind of satisfy everyone. You don't need to, right, Samuel has just, I'm doing these in order. Samuel has asked how many applications do we get approximately to this course. Can be anywhere between 50 and 100. And the places do fill up very, very quickly, especially as we come to the stage where people are starting to get the results kind of May, June time. So there's a bit of a rush. In terms of, and apologies if I don't pronounce this correct, if I don't pronounce your name correctly, Saskim. You know, you don't need to learn Python. The majority of this is going to be, you will get Python in the course, but the majority of this is going to be in R. We have thought about, do we divide people between R and Python, but I'd rather have you coming out of this course knowing one statistical programming language well. And from that, it is so much easier to learn others. Believe me, once you've got one done, it's like trying to learn 2 languages. It's like trying to learn, if you are an English speaker, learn French and German together, and you know, can hurt your head at the bit. Okay. In terms, Priya are asking about the agricultural biotechnology. I think it kind of depends very much what's in the course module, what's in the content, you know, before I can actually properly, because when students do come through and I'm not too sure about their course background, I mean, this is human health that we're dealing with and also biology. So it very much is up to, you know, being able to see how much basic science, you know, the course, your own course provides. And you know, it will be whether that matches up to what we require. There are limited places, Sarah. Sarah's asked about how hard it is to get onto the course. It can be, it's more about what your course background is. And we have to be careful about who we let on, in the sense we don't want people coming in and struggling. And so it's a 2-1 or more, and we need to get to, because there's so much demand for the course, it's about getting people who pay their deposits first. This is what we're doing across the school. Our ones are in, because we don't want to overload it. We don't want to overload the course. We want to maximize people getting the best out of it, because we don't want 50 people sitting in this course and us really struggling to give you the attention you need. In terms, Sarah, your second question was about ideas in a research project. It is, you might have some kind of flexibility with respect to your own, you know, when you choose a research project, about areas you might want to go into. Like, you may have done what the supervisor wants you to do, but then you might say, okay, I want to do this, but we're not in a position at the moment where students can choose their own research projects, because you're based within a particular lab group. And so you'll be working alongside PhDs and postdocs and the supervisor, and they will have a question they want answered. So you may have a bit of choice in terms of, once you get your research project, about what you want to do. But at the moment, there could be the danger that you might have an interest and we might not be able to supervise you well enough. So we have to make sure that we do supervise you well. Okay, Samuel's talking about using R. Well, R is the main one, Samuel, that we would need to use. And I mean, I can't tell you about specific apps or packages, but I mean, things I would tend to use at the moment, I'm using I'm very focused on patient analysis. So I'd be using a lot of packages that would allow me to do differential expression. So that's SAMR, clustering, consensus clustering, survival analysis, so that's the survival package. So I can't really give you a list of apps, but I could tell you R is the dominant one, and that is something that that is core to the master's program. Pharmaceutical companies and labs that come at the time of job fair, it very much depends. Randox would tend to give presentations to our course in particular. LMAC Diagnostics and LMAC Discovery are around as well. And so it very much depends who's out there and who's hiring at the time. Also, Diaceutics are quite a big company here, and they're very interested in our master's students. So it very much depends on who marketing can bring in and who's hiring, but just don't think about who's here in Northern Ireland or Ireland. It's looking across the water in the UK, it's looking across in Europe, so you have some of the big pharma there, like GlaxoSmithKline, the other ones I work with have gone out of my head. But so you've got big pharma there who'll be interested in master's students at this level. So research industry projects also fully dry lab based. Research, yes, they tend to be fully dry lab. You might get a little bit of wet lab if you're so inclined or if you want it, but it's bioinformatics. This goes on year and year. Some students want a mixture of dry and wet lab because it means you can validate your results or else generate your own data. But it's not necessary. And again, sometimes we have to tailor our projects that the supervisor are interested in to what skill sets the students have. So you have to be careful, that you push the students enough, but don't push them into an area in which they've no interest of being. No, students have never organised their own industry placements outside of Belfast. If there are any industry placements, they would have to come via us because we then have to, meet with them, because even if we have an industrial supervisor, you would also need an academic supervisor. So although the question was asked, can you suggest your own project, would be up to bringing more industrial collaborations in. However, we need to match them then with an academic person who it then fits with. Because I've taken on people before and it's just not my area of work, so it takes me away from my own research work. So yes, we want students to kind of dig in, but a lot of the stuff that students will sometimes think, oh, well, I'm not going to get the necessary skills to allow me to proceed to a PhD. For a PhD level or industry level, people are looking for transferable skills. So it's not just necessarily about experience in a particular topic, it's experience more in the methodologies and the analysis. In terms of, yes, Judith, in terms of research project academic, it very much depends on what's happening with the industrial collaborators. We've got a couple of industrial projects this year, and we hope to bring a few more on next year. But it could be that you're not necessarily based in industry, but you're working on an industrial project. So you could still be based in Queens, but your industrial supervisors come in. Priya, in terms of NGS platforms, there is scope for use in India. It's not just about NGS. We also look at archive data, microarray data. This is about patient interrogation. So with any sort of omics data that we have coming from patients, so these statistical and machine learning techniques are transferable across a number of different data types. It's not just about we only deal with one technology. We give you a generic base for dealing with all different types of data. But it's always relating it to patient survival and patient response to treatment. So that's what we do. So I think there's scope enough in terms of being able to transfer it back to your home countries. So I hope I've answered everything. And like, what you will notice about, for people who are not from Belfast, Belfast people talk terribly fast. So that's another thing you may have to get used to. But we do slow down in lectures. But hopefully what comes across is I'm very enthusiastic about my work, and I'm very enthusiastic about the course. I learned things the hard way. I didn't have a bioinformatics conversion. I kind of learned how to apply my maths computing in quite a in a very piecemeal way, but I had the background there. Any more questions, email me, okay? So you've got my email within the slide deck.